The smell of burnt polymer filled the room as 6 armored guards fell. No alarms, no warnings, no survival. White sparks showered from a cracked pillar, cutting through the heavy gray haze of the room. Specialist Kira Mercer stood entirely still in the middle of the wreckage. Her gray uniform did not have a single crease, and her boots remained locked to the steel floor. Around her feet, the largest shock troops in the galaxy lay flat on their backs, their heavy ceramic breastplates cracked wide open. A square piece of gray plastic sat quietly in her right hand, its edge dripping with clear cooling fluid. Would you have stayed in that room because the guards who did never fought again? 12 minutes before the smoke cleared, Nutrition Sector 4 was completely dead. The penal colony on Tartarus Prime did not allow talking during the midday feeding cycle. High above the rows of bolted metal tables, the flat synthetic hum of the ceiling neural dampeners kept the room cold and quiet. Hundreds of inmates from a dozen worlds sat with their heads down. They looked like gray ghosts against the dull gray walls. Any sudden movement or loud sound triggered the automated defense guns hanging from the ceiling beams. Warden Yalik sat in the high monitoring booth above the northern wall, his 4 lower mandibles clicking in a slow, rhythmic circle. He had watched over this high-security block for 40 rotations, and he knew how to read the silence. He liked order, he liked predictability. His screens showed the biometric heartbeats of every creature below, all matching the slow, forced calm of the prison grid. His eyes drifted to the small human sitting at table 97. Kira Mercer did not look like a dangerous operative from a deep space territory. She was small, thin, and entirely plain, but Yalik always watched her closely because of her file. The paper was mostly black lines covered in high-level military blocks that his clearance could not unlock. For 3 weeks she had done nothing but follow the rules. She woke when the lights blinked. She cleaned her cell until the metal shined. She walked to the eating hall with her hands flat against her sides. Right now, Mercer was chewing her synthetic food cubes in an unnaturally perfect cadence. She bit down exactly once every 2 seconds. Her eyes focused entirely on the center of her tray. Beneath the small pile of gray nutrient squares sat a standard-issue nutrient slate. The slate was a thick, heavy slab of compressed polycarb plastic, designed to be washed by high-heat automated sprays thousands of times without wearing down. It was a dull, ordinary object. The heavy iron doors at the front of the hall split open with a sudden hydraulic shriek. The sound was so loud that a hulking Bulgarian inmate in the corner shivered, dropping his plastic spoon into his soup. Praetor Zarnok stepped through the threshold. Behind him marched 5 members of the Crimson Phalanx, their heavy boots making a synchronized magnetic thud against the floor plates. They were 9 feet tall, their massive bodies covered in interlocking ceramic weave plates that could stop high-powered plasma bolts. Bright red threat frills flared from the sides of Zarnok's neck, glowing with a hot biological light that showed his irritation. The hegemony had sent their most feared strike unit to take one small human. Yalik leaned toward his monitors, his fingers tapping the security override keys. His tactical readouts showed the Phalanx armor running at full power, their localized shield emitters humming with active energy. The electronic math on his screen was clear. The probability of any inmate resisting this squad was exactly 0. Zarnok stopped 3 paces from table 97. His armor hissed as he leaned forward, his deep voice rattling the metal benches. Specialist Mercer, your transfer order has been signed by the High Council. Stand and lock your hands behind your head for deep interrogation. Mercer did not look up immediately. She carefully swallowed her last nutrient cube, her eyes still fixed on the table. When she finally raised her head, she offered a small, polite smile. Sir, I have 90 seconds left in my scheduled hydration cycle. May I finish my water before we depart? Zarnok's neck frills flashed a dark, amused crimson. He looked at his 5 men, then back at the fragile creature before him. The algorithms in his heads-up display showed her threat level as completely non-existent. He let out a low, rumbling sound that passed for a laugh. Eat your food, human. It is the last solid meal you will see for many rotations. He signaled his unit to stand down, their weapons lowering to their sides. In the booth above, Yalik frowned as he watched the countdown clock on his panel. Mercer lifted her plastic hydration cup with a steady hand. She took 3 measured sips, her eyes shifting across the Phalanx squad. She was not looking at their weapons. She was watching the tiny, microscopic joint seams behind their knees and beneath their throat guards, the small gaps where the heavy world armor had to bend to allow movement. The hydration cup left her hand, touching the table with a soft click. The clock hit 0. Before the sound of the plastic cup died away, Mercer's entire posture changed. Her shoulders locked, her spine straightened, and her polite smile vanished into absolute stone. She did not reach for a weapon because she did not have one. Instead, her fingers snapped down onto the edge of the standard-issue nutrient slate. With a single, explosive twist of her torso, Mercer ripped the heavy polycarb board upward. The dense plastic slab cut through the air like a heavy blade, striking the first guard directly under his chin guard. The impact cracked the ceramic throat seal with a loud snap, severing the suit's oxygen line. The 9-foot soldier collapsed forward into the table like a felled tree. No movement from the tables, no sound from the guards, no response from the turrets. The entire cafeteria froze as the first body hit the deck. The second guard reacted by raising his high-velocity grav-tether gun, his finger tightening on the trigger. Mercer did not try to dodge. She angled the flat side of the gray slate at a sharp 45-degree tilt, catching the magnetic tether as it fired. The heavy core of the polycarb slab absorbed the force, bouncing the kinetic energy backward along the line. The tether snapped into the chest plates of 2 other guards, dragging them together with a violent metal crash that sent them sprawling into a bolted bench. Praetor Zarnok let out a furious roar, his threat frills turning a wild, dangerous orange. He lunged across the table, his massive, heavy world muscle mass moving with incredible speed as he reached for her neck. Mercer dropped flat onto her back, sliding across the slick, grease-covered floor plates beneath his reach. As Zarnok passed over her, she drove the sharp, jagged corner of the nutrient slate directly into the soft joint seam behind his left knee. She did not use it as a simple club. She used the slate as a high-speed aerodynamic lever, throwing her full body weight against his momentum. The giant's knee buckled with a wet, heavy pop. Zarnok screamed as his massive frame crashed into the deck, his armor systems letting out a high-pitched whine as they failed. The final phalanx soldier stepped back, trying to clear his heavy plasma rifle to aim at the floor. Mercer scrambled to her feet, her boots gripping the steel plates with perfect balance. She did not run toward him. She flung the gray polymer slate across the room, spinning it hard like a flat stone skipping over water. The slate flew through the sterile air, banking sharply off a reinforced support pillar. It clipped the localized shield emitter of the heavy gunner, shattering the glass housing before burying itself 4 inches deep into the wall's primary control panel. A great burst of white sparks showered down on Mercer's uniform as the remaining troops collapsed around her, their suit systems shorting out in unison. They struck, they failed, they broke. The entire encounter had taken exactly 42 seconds. In the monitoring booth, Yalek sat in absolute frozen silence. His hands hovered over the alarm keys, but his fingers could not press down. His data screens were a mass of flashing red error messages, indicating total structural failure of the elite unit. On the main feed, he saw Mercer reach up with 2 fingers to smooth a small crease in her uniform pants. She did not look at the groaning soldiers on the floor. She turned her face directly toward his hidden security camera. She looked straight into the lens, nodded once, and whispered a single word that Yalek's audio sensors picked up clearly through the static. Gratitude. A new alert suddenly flashed on Yalek's secondary screen, coming from the Deep Core Medical Wing. The prison logs showed that her file had not been blocked by military high command. She had been using her daily access time to slowly upload the station's structural blueprints into her personal record for 3 weeks. 3 hours later, the entire penal colony was placed under total lockdown. A squad of heavy automated transport units entered Nutrition Sector 4 to drag the broken pieces of the Crimson Phalanx armor toward the repair bays, while medical droids tended to the shattered carapaces of the galaxy's finest strike team. The next morning, a new directive signed by Warden Yalek went into effect across every sector of Tartarus Prime. There would be no more trays. There would be no more benches. Every human inmate received their daily nutrition in soft, dissolvable paper pouches, served directly onto the bare steel floor. The gray polycarb slate remained exactly where it had landed, its jagged edge wedged tight into the thick metal frame of the blast door.